record. That's a new thing. Huh. Just so you know, we're recording. All right, so we'll just go over a couple things with Illustrator today, and we'll just a couple Bible things, that kind of stuff. Give me some second here. So questions as we start to get going. Anybody? You there?
Oh, I had a question.
Yes.
So I saw on Canvas that you made the due date for the logo the 9th?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
That should be next Tuesday.
Got it.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Again, I'll be honest with you guys. I'm not gonna freak if you didn't turn it in on Tuesday, because that's how I am. I want you to get the project done. So I don't want to go, oh, I didn't get it done, so I'm just not gonna do it. And I don't know how you guys are. So I want you to do the project. So if that means it gets delayed, it gets delayed. But I need you to do it. And like I said, we're gonna add that logo to our poster designs also. So that'll be coming up. And again, I gotta get that typed up, the spec sheet, but hopefully you guys can start that as we go. And I'll just quickly review it today anyway. Remember next Thursday, 11, there's no class for Veterans Day. So mark your calendars. I'll make sure, let me just see if I can turn that off on the Zoom even. Zoom, the 11th. I'm going to delete it just so you don't even, just delete this occurrence, yes. Okay. So you'll see even on Zoom, there is no class next week. All right, questions as we start? Questions that have arisen out of anything we've gone over, anything in Illustrator? Don't tell me I'm not good. I know that's not the case. Okay, let me get right. All right, we'll just kind of go over a couple more Illustrator things, just so you guys are good. I know we're getting close, and we're going to be working with it. And I'm sure you've got some last minute logo stuff. And we're going to have time today to look at work again. So feel free to get some of your projects together, and you can share them and I can give you some feedback, and we'll keep moving forward with that. I'm not going to be super long lecturing today, but as we go, any questions? Anybody come up with anything? Any problems, issues as they're working their logo?
I have a question, Professor.
Yes.
So for our past assignment, since we turned it in through email to you,
Yes.
I was wondering if there's any possible way that we would know that you received that assignment.
Yeah, I thought I sent the emails, but I think I didn't send them all. Let me just check here.
I just worried about it only to the fact that I usually.
I will tell you, if for some reason I didn't get it, I will say, hey, I didn't get it. You can send it again. I wouldn't take points off.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm trying to get all that stuff caught up. It's just been hectic, but I'm hoping things are kind of slowing down. And then I know I need to get it done for you guys. So let me try to get all that. I mean, I'm not going to make promises, but I'm working on it, and I'll get that to you soon. If for some reason you sent something and I didn't get it, for whatever reason, I will just say, hey, I didn't get it. Can you send it again? So, and that goes for anything, guys. I'm not, again, my main goal and objective of all this is to get you to feel comfortable with the programs, and understand that they can take you to places and they can allow you to do a lot of really cool things. And then I know it's the first class for most of you guys with this, so it's really just kind of getting you up to speed. And the projects and stuff, we have projects, but I'm not like going to kill you guys about got to be done this day, and if I didn't get it, here's 0, and none of that stuff. So if for some reason you sent it or didn't send it, and I get it or didn't get whatever, I will let you know. We'll make sure everything is cool. Definitely by the end of the semester, everybody's going to know. Okay, we'll get it done before then, but don't sweat on that with projects. And I don't want you guys, I got enough going on. I don't need you stressing over grades. That makes sense. You guys everybody's doing fine, and you guys you obviously know what you're doing because you're not asking me questions. So that means you guys are professional with this, okay? So I would assume you're going to go, hey, how do I make a circle again? That's the kind of questions that you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I haven't been doing my job. So again, as questions arise, just ask. It's no problem. That's what we're here for. All right. I want to go over a couple of things real quick with Illustrator. And just a few more tidbits, tricks, all that kind of stuff that may have not figured out yet. Again, we're not getting into every little detail of this program, but enough that you guys can do stuff and work with stuff. And there's additional things that will come over time. And some of it you don't need, and some of it you may never need. But you'll get it as you need it, type of thing. And you can have obviously additional classes in this stuff also, if you continue with this as a major. So I want to kind of go over just a couple things with the effects and so forth. I know we've covered some with the idea of warping, and we'll go through some of these again today. And then some of the effects are more Photoshop based. And really what this is doing is these are kind of bitmappy effects. So they're not vector based. So if they enlarge and so forth, they can become a little bit pixelated based upon the effect that you're doing. Okay. But I want to kind of go through this 3D effects. I think this kind of works sometimes really nice for logos. And this is a bevel and a extrude. Let me pick a new color here so it'll show up a little bit better. Oops. Okay, so we have this Be Kind, and I'm going under effects, and there's a 3D. And again, they're updating this. They're coming up with a new version of this. I want you to know it does it now. It will do it in the future. It's going to even do it better. Okay, so just so you know, it's going to get better with this. So what I've done is just basically add a 3D effect to my type. Okay, so you can manually do this kind of stuff, but it kind of does a really kind of cool angles, lets you really kind of tweak it out and give you some really nice effects potentially with it. And you can even change the depth of that. So it's not purely a fake shadow. It's really kind of, as you can see here, stretched. Okay, meaning we can extrude or add depth to it. And you can, of course, change your shading and where that goes also by kind of turning it here, or you can put in the numbers yourself. Okay. So again, there's a lot of really cool things here. And I think these kind of things work well when they come to stuff like logos and those kind of marks. You wouldn't do this for, they work good for posters as we get to the posters, all that kind of thing. So right now I've just had these two words, and you can see there's a little bit of the issue here where the B is behind the K, and I may not want that. So we can fix that later, but we just kind of made that Be Kind, and know that this extrusion, if we look at it from a layer standpoint, it's not any kind of option you can turn off down the line. Okay, so if you think, hey, I want to do this, but I'm not quite sure, make a copy. In this case, we have the Be Kind over here to start from, before you have this, because once we move ahead and start saving and you open this up tomorrow, I cannot undo the extrusion effect, the 3D effect. Okay, it becomes a part of the layer. Okay, unlike other things where you can undo it later, this you can't undo. Okay, so just be, you don't have to be confident, but just know that you can undo it later. So you might want to make a copy of it before you did the effects, just so you have that. Now I'm going to move this one actually to the front. Orange, bring to front. Just kind of make that, definitely makes it look a little bit better on there. Okay, but you can do these extrusions, and that's kind of a cool thing with the effects panel. Okay, so 3D. Again, signage could be here, like on our travel poster. We have, you know, this Visit Seattle. Maybe I want to do an effect on it, like a 3D extrude. Okay, so I'm going to pull it back here. And I'm going to give it a little bit more depth. Too much. Okay. So we did that now to the poster. So you can see how we just kind of bumped it up with the letters coming out at you. So again, that's where you can kind of do it. And it will also work on shapes. These are all the shapes themselves, and you can see there with that. I'm going to flatten it out a little bit. And I want to see the tops. Just kind of like, I'm trying to just give it a little bit of a quick dimension there. We'll just bump that up a little bit. There we go. So you can see, you can, again, in this case, we added a little bit dimension to the buildings type of thing. I'm not sure I love it for sure, but you can do that. So again, that's with the effects and extrude panel. Now the other one that I know we've gone over, but I want to show you again. It's just the idea of working with the arcing system. So let me blow this up. Let's do this. Enlarge this a little bit so we can see it better. And I'm going to fit, I'm just going to kind of do a little bit simpler font so it'll read a little bit better. So what I'm going to do now is I want to kind of use the effects to kind of give it an arc. All right, so that's going to come under warp, and there's a whole bunch of options down here. And I want you to kind of just see those. And here's the traditional arc. And again, there's a little preview kind of shows you what they are. And you can determine how much of an arc you would do. Okay, and because it's still, in this case, it's live text, I can change what it says, but I can also come back in here and use the touch type tool to move things around. So I'm using the A and I'm just kind of moving it over. Now the D I want to move over, and the E I want to move. So I can manually kern this thing out. That U and that F are a bit far apart. So I'm going to pull that in tighter, and that N that way. So it's, you know, definitely well worth the time to kind of get in there and finesse and look at the letters and how the letters go together. Especially when we're talking about something like a poster or a logo. It's all about those letters and the consistency of it all. I'm going to apply this again. So here's the arc there. Let's give it a bit lower arc. Do a upper arc. Okay. And what it's doing is kind of keeping the arc here and arcing it, and you can see the distortion. And again, you just have to kind of, you can get a lower arc. You can see the distortions happen a little bit to it with all of them. There's a bulge. Okay. So they call it the shell. You can see kind of a wavy thing. There's a flag. Okay. And again, you can determine how much of that flagginess gets done. Okay. And you can also distort things vertically or horizontally as you go. Okay, so there's a lot of really cool. And then again, the nice thing about this is all vector-based type, so it really keeps it clean. And we can also make it into, we can outline it, so we can play with it a little bit more and stretch and distort it. But we're in a world where we can do these things, and we've got vectors to work with. Okay, so quite a bit of those, that the warp options, like I said, I use those quite often. You know, especially I can see they come in handy a lot with working with logos and such, where you just want to have that type of art or feel that's going on. Now, another thing I want to show you is what we call an offset path. And again, this is used a lot in logo work and such, because you know, you're dealing with a circle or a path or even a rectangle or a shield or something, some kind of form like that. And what we want is that we want a secondary circle that's going to be around that, or actually even inside that. It doesn't matter which way you start. So we're going to start with an ellipse here, which is round, and we held the option to keep it straight. And then we're going to go to object and path, and there's a thing called offset path. Okay. And what this is going to do is offset the object. And it's going to give me a preview here of that. So in this case, we're making almost like a donut. And you don't have to be, you can set this to be whatever diameter that you want. Okay. And when you click OK, so now we have two shapes, and they're both independent. Okay. And at this point, neither one has a fill, but you can come back in and give it a fill. And you'll notice this one has no fill, so I can, you know, make it white so it looks like there's a hole. Or I could actually punch this out of the circle now, okay, by using the Pathfinder tool. And I've gotten now rid of the middle. And to show that, I'll do something like that, and I'll send that to the back. And you can see that we have one independent circle here on top of a box. Okay, so you can, that offset path, I use that quite often just to kind of work with things and give you that circle. Okay, and again, you'll see this a lot with logos where you've got a shield or you've got some kind of item where you want that to be on the outside. And sometimes it's just a simple line, right? I don't want a big area. I just want kind of a nice short line. So I'm going to skim this down a little bit. So it's like 2 points. And then I'm going to do an offset path. And I'm going to just kind of do this 0.02. And if you're not seeing it, hit the preview on, preview off, and you can see that's barely showing. 0.4, 0.5. You can see that where we've got just that little bit of an edge coming around. And that can kind of work here because we've got two circles. Okay, I can come back to this first one, and I can even make that one stroke a little thinner. So now we've got that thick, thin circle going around. Again, you'll find that often in these kind of logos and shields and icons and stuff that are created, where you have one out of the other. And this way, it's actually perfectly lined up. Okay, could you make them in kind of size and scale? You can, but it just tends to get a little bit messy as you keep going. Okay. Any questions on the offset path? That makes sense? It's used all the time. I mean, I'm looking at a sticker here, just that there's a little offset path coming on here, right? So I made one, there's a second one. You use it all the time, just kind of help space things out visually. It just works, totally works as a design element. Okay, just copy that up. Now I did an offset path, and let me show you what that did. So I did object, and I had an object selected, and I did the outline the stroke. Okay, so the offset path gives you a secondary object. Okay, with the outline stroke, it gives me it gives it basically an outline to the stroke. So I'm zooming in so you start to see that. So you can see here where I've got that stroke as a separate part. Does that make sense? So what I did was when I made this, I'm gonna do it again so you can see. Color so you can see. And I'll give it a stroke. Oops. Stroke. And we'll zoom it out a little bit like that. You can see. So offset path will make a separate path on the outside of this, and it basically becomes a separate object with the select it. With the offset or outline the stroke, it will now take the outline and make it into separate stroke. Okay, and what that does is it allows me to get in there and I can change the width or the parts of that stroke. So it's got these points, and again, I can play with the stroke itself, and you can see that there. I can kind of modify and do that in the back. In fact, I can even take that off. Just kind of another way of being able to draw and work in Illustrator here. Just pulling those Bezier handles down. It's going to give me a cup half full kind of thing. Okay, so I started with literally a circle with a black outline, and when I did the offset pass, it actually made the path a separate item. Okay, so basically the path then becomes its own shape. Okay, so again, it's just a way of doing. You don't have to redraw it. If you draw it, you can now take the shape or the path and offset it. The same thing would happen is if I use the pen tool, for example. Okay, and I'm going to reverse this so we just have a path. I'm going to give it some thickness, and we've got that. I'm going to actually even give it, I want to round the edges off, so let me get to my properties, and I'm going to go to my stroke, and I want my caps to be rounded. Okay, so that makes a nice, cool stroke. Oops, I didn't want that last one. Okay, so we've got that done. But now we're going to go, well, I want to do some things with this. Now I can add to this, but I can't add color and so forth. Otherwise, it's kind of doing this. So what I'm going to do is do the shape or path again, outline the stroke. And again, what you'll see here now is I have that as a separate stroke that I can now come back to and fill. All right, or I'm going to flip it. And now we have that now became a worm instead of a stroke. Okay, so that's the difference here is when you outline the stroke, it actually literally kind of becomes its own object. Okay, with a stroke and a fill. Prior, it was just a, it's just a, so you don't want that. You want to have it like this. Okay, so you can just kind of flip it. We're just going to flip it there. And we're going to have a stroke of 0. Oops, I want to do it that way. Oops, go back, go back. There we go. All right, so object, path, outline, stroke. Okay, and I can zoom into it and you can see it there. I'm going to give the, do this. I'm going to flip it. And my stroke is, my object wasn't that deep. There we go. Okay, you can see I have that pink in the inside there. When I did, I should have drawn it a thicker stroke to start with. Okay. But the cool thing is I can come back in here and I can now modify it. It's the snake that just ate the mouse. Okay. So just kind of a different way of kind of building into the shapes. And again, these are still live objects. I can still change them and move the points around as I need to. And edit them and change colors and etc. Okay, so they become shape themselves. Questions on offset path or outlining the stroke? Kind of looks like a Pepsi logo. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Somehow I think they just kind of, somebody did a doodle and that's how they came up with that Pepsi logo. I don't know. I remember when it first came out, I was like, what the hell? Every designer
It was, I was referring to the one, not these two, but the one below it when you're messing with that and it kind of had like the wave in it.
Yeah.
Again, I had that's what it kind of looked like, the Pepsi logo.
I probably did it that way for all I know. Yeah, I just remember when Pepsi came out with that logo, every designer was like shaking their head going, what did they do and why did they do it? But as they say, after a while, it doesn't matter. It just kind of becomes a part of life, you know? And I'm sure half you guys don't even remember what the old Pepsi logo looks like, even from years ago. Things change. Okay, so again, as we're working, know there's a lot of different ways that you can start to work with these shapes to get you what you want, you know, and then you can take those and kind of, you know, add that in and, you know, let's say that's going to be your travel logo. Right, so I'm going to give that. Oops, I don't want that. It's fine. All right, there's your water. And, oops. And it's going to become a sailboat. Let's get the color. Make it orange. I'm going to take away a point. Get rid of that one. Scale it up a little bit. Okay. And again, remember you can take, if I want these all to align, I can go up here to align, right? And I'm going to do that to get things to align, right, left, whatever. Likewise, center. So, you know, use your computer to do that work for you. You could manually do it, but it gets really, really hard. Okay. And I can just kind of push those up a little bit just using the arrow keys, reduce the leading a little bit. All right, I'm going to put that here. And I'm going to take this and enlarge this a little bit. I think I'm going to do the aligned. See, it's weird because in design, it always works better when like the logo is over to the right or to the left, because we read right to left or left to right. So you're going to see the icon, and then you get into the words. Okay. So for some reason, this typically works. Would this work over here? It does. It just feels, it kind of creates a different tension. Does that make sense? So it's not to say you can't do it, but just know that as people living in this country, for at least because we read left to right, this feels more uncomfortable than putting it over here. Does that make sense? It's not that there's a right and wrong. It's just a preferred with people. It doesn't mean it's wrong. Trust me, there are logos.
Doesn't flow.
What's that?
It just doesn't flow.
Yeah, it feels awkward. Does that make sense?
I think it's weird the way we can't really put it exactly into words why it feels awkward, but it's kind of like, you know, what do they say, like in art, the rule of thirds or whatever, you know, it just
Yes.
looks more pleasant to the eye, kind of.
Yeah, well, some of it comes from literally what we've literally grown up with, because from you were a tiny little kid, everything has been projected to you in the left to right format and top to bottom type of format. You know, so we tend to read that way. Now, if you go to some place like, I don't know, Israel, where they read from right to left, or maybe someplace in Asia where they're reading top to bottom, it's going to be different. But you're right. We've just come. This is how we've kind of evolved, and it's. I mean, I could say it's an evolutionary thing. Meaning it's built into the human psyche. Like, oh, we just feel like we got to run, right, or we got to go climb the mountains, type of thing. You know, some of that is like because we've grown up in nature through tens of thousands of years as people. But yeah, this idea of reading right to left, left to right, I think it's just because it's just been the way it is. You know, so this is the preferred way, I think. Again, it doesn't mean it has to be, okay, because you might want to stir it up a little bit, or you might want to get the words out there first and then come to some kind of icon. But you could do that. And even here, I would go through this and go, well, let's say I'm really happy with it. I'm pretty content with how it feels and the type and all that. And I'm like, well, maybe I want this to be flipped. I don't know, right? I'm looking at it. Well, it kind of guides me in, so that might be good. Or maybe I want to kind of do it the other way. So I'm just going to kind of reflect and do it that way. Okay. So again, I'm just trying to see which way will work better. Again, this, to me, when I start to read this, my eye is going up. It comes to this and it takes me up to the top. So I probably would think this is better. Now it's bringing me down over to the words. Okay. And those are the kind of things you have to kind of play with and work through, you know, as a designer. Maybe it's, you know, likewise, maybe this is too big. And I would kind of go through revisions on, you know, where does this go? And does it get contained within that circle? Okay. And again, I'm kind of the idea that for me in my head, this is a sail from a sail ship, but it could also be a shark fin or who knows what. It's just kind of a play on design type of thing. It doesn't have to be. And if you don't get it, you don't get it too. It could be, you know, a snowman with a carrot top nose for all that knows. But again, the symbols don't have to be completely obvious. You know, move it over here, and now it's a sail, but maybe it's something like, it feels like there's kind of a clock effect happening. So again, just by having some abstract shapes, sometimes we can do what we need to do and get these unique kind of feel of objects going on. And also looking at the relationship here between the circle and the old shape, right? So right here with the black, I'm kind of coming across just visually showing you what I'm thinking. You know, I've got this 7 Cs travel kind of balance between the top and line there, but I've got this tangent coming off. So I might even scale this down a little bit more. So my tangent is just above. And I've got that baseline. So this guide kind of comes up to here now. And then I take these 3 items, maybe even scale those up a little bit, just kind of push them up just a little bit. I don't want it too top heavy, but it kind of pulls it across. So we're always playing with these kind of balances of shapes and objects. And remember, words end up becoming shapes. Okay. And then I might get into here and even maybe play with stuff like, again, different weights with that. So let me see if there's a regular, there's a bold, italic. Let me keep that regular. You know, maybe there's something like that 7 Cs travel. And so I'm kind of changing the pace on how you read it. Again, I would go through these things on and off and all day long trying to figure out which way I wanted it to be. You know, it's italic now, maybe it's regular. You know, maybe it's just a sense of color. Okay, maybe I use color as kind of an accent, a way of enunciating. Okay, where I'm just kind of doing that. Or maybe I come back to that turquoise or that blue. Maybe that's black and the other is blue. So this is, again, this is what we do as designers. Some of it, this is kind of going through and what feels and what works and what doesn't work. Oh, I don't know, maybe I should play that with the orange, you know? And eventually I'm going to get to points where I'm like, I'm pretty happy with it. And again, if you get to something, you're like, I think this is pretty close, but I'm not sure, make a duplication and then come back and play. Okay, cool. Okay, let me do it with a different blue or different. So you're going through it this way. And you still have the one that you like down here. Because at some point you're going to start playing with this and you're going to, okay, let me try a different typeface here. Maybe this is where I do a serif with that. So instead of the sans or the serif, I put sans serif in. It's kind of a slabby serif. Oh, I'm on these here. Okay. You know, we got this font, which got a bazillion different typefaces in there. Okay. And then I can maybe scale that up a little bit. Okay. So now I'm going down some kind of rabbit hole. I don't know where I'm going to end up at, but I started going, but at least I have this down here. Oops. That I can come back to. Because I can tell you in about 10 minutes, if I start playing with this so much, I'm going to get to a point where I'm like, I forgot what this looked like. Or I've picked so many different typefaces, I'm way far down the line. So like I said, make sure you're working from copies once you get to certain points that you're liking, because it will make your life easier. Because you're gonna again go, oh, what was that? You won't remember. You won't remember what you did and what it was called and all that, and you'll spend an hour trying to get it back to where it was. When if you had made a copy, it's good. And remember, it doesn't matter, right? It's only a file. It really doesn't matter what else is in here. You can delete stuff later. Like, hey, I don't want that. That's in the way. I'm trying to, or you can copy these over into a new file and keep going. Okay, so you just want to kind of work, come up with a process or a way of working for yourself that benefits you down the line. Now, just looking at this, I zoomed out. I'm like, look at this V and the A coming together. There's something in here, right? Something I need to match those up, right? So the S's are lined up and the E's are lined up. This is off, I think. It might be lined up, but it's off there. So I'm going to actually come in here with my touch type tool, and I'm going to move this V over a little bit. Wow, that kind of just like visually did something cool there. Okay, now I know this is off. That'd have been cool if I get that V under there. Well, I don't know, right? So I've got, let me do this. Because again, you got to play, right? You start to see things and you got to go, well, what if? I like that. I don't want to mess with it too much. I'm going to come down here and get rid of this junk. Get rid of that junk. What if the 7, 2, and the C's lines up over the D for travel? What does that do? Right? Again, I don't know. You'd have to kind of do it to see. It kind of creates a weird tangent there, and there's kind of a thing coming off the end, but there's something kind of happening here. I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's right. I don't know if I'm going to like it in a minute from now. Okay, but there's just something kind of cool that's coming in there. That makes sense. So again, it's nothing that's going to change the world. It's nothing that's going to make the logo. I'm not trying to make some kind of hidden code like it says VAD. You know, there could be, you know, you could do that some kind of a logo or something kind of name.
Subliminal messaging.
What's that?
Subliminal messaging.
Yeah. You could have that, right? You could have that where the DAS is something or part of the name of the company or what they do. You get that subliminal stuff. And you can make it obvious. Sometimes you can just kind of make it, I want that, you know, I could literally make that A black, really make it stand out if I wanted to, right? And this could be black, you know, and then I could even go into something here where this is that orange. Right, that says something, right? You literally will see DAV because I told you to. That's what I did my visual. It doesn't mean anything, but if DAD stood for something or there was something like that, you would want to kind of work that out. And what do I want to do? Or do I want to make it obvious or not obvious with that? You know, again, we're just kind of working things along, but you know, that's what we do as artists, designers, kind of create that way. Again, I'm not sure, but maybe this works where I put this over here, works a little bit stronger. Kind of some weird kind of, you know, voodoo stuff going on here. It's like it works. This kind of is still weird, but it's like it might be okay. It may be just enough weirdness that it totally works. Does that make sense? So you have to kind of just kind of put things together and see how they balance. And then at the end, you're going to have a couple options to go, well, here's some options, you know, and you're going to show it to them and you're going to kind of go through what you're thinking about for their design with them. I mean, again, a lot of this is just kind of intuitive and just kind of that feel. And that just comes by working as a designer, working as an artist, right? That comes by just kind of looking at things. You know, you go to look at other designs, you look at packaging, menus, you go to art museums and kind of see what, you know, aesthetically pleasing art is. You know, a lot of the art that became, we can say famous, Monet, Picasso, but there's something about their works. Now, again, it's not to say every Monet or every Picasso is an incredible thing. At this point, they just sell for millions because of the name. But if you look at them from an artistic sense, there's pieces that are better than others. And that's kind of at some point why they became who they are. There was something aesthetically pleasing at the time that people gravitated to and made them who they are. Now, again, some of it becomes after their death, but like Picasso's instance, he was alive still when he was famous. Okay, I mean, really famous and made a lot of money. So, unlike Van Gogh, right? I mean, Van Gogh, nobody knew who Van Gogh really was. Okay, I mean, he had some people that liked his work. You know, he had his brother who believed in him, and he had his friends and stuff. But you know, for the vast majority of Van Gogh's work, it didn't make any money. Okay. There was, you know, he sold paintings, but it wasn't like he sold paintings for millions and was famous. It was just a, you know, a crazy guy, you know, lived in the south of France at the end of his life. So but there's something about his work. I mean, if you go even today and go see Starry Night at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, you're just kind of transfixed by it. There is something about that that is genius, right? Just the positioning and the stars and the colors and how the movement works. And the same thing goes through with design, with logos. Some of it just kind of, it feels right. Okay, so I want you guys to have the time to work and go through this, and hopefully you've got some stuff that feels right. All right, questions on what we've kind of covered again, refreshed a couple things there in Illustrator. All right, I want to open up my share. Stop sharing so I can share. Okay, I think. Okay, so what I want you to do, so my computer battery here. Hold on, that's what my computer does. Is it good? My computer's getting old. If it just comes unplugged just a little bit, I don't notice it. I thought it was plugged in, but now I see it's like that. Whoa, we almost crashed out. All right, so I think we are good. That everybody can share. So if you have some logos or have some questions or stuff you want to show, you should be able to take the share and show us what you got. So anybody want to go?
I'm willing to go in just a minute here. I'm trying to export right now because I know if I try to open Illustrator and Zoom, it's going to destroy my computer again. So I'm not making that mistake twice.
Okay. Anybody else ready in the meantime? Who wants to share? Kind of like we did the other day. Simple. Nothing that's gonna be difficult. I won't crush your life. Don't worry.
All right. So is it working?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, yeah, this is just what I've been playing around with so far. This one down here at the bottom left, this is just kind of just based on what I was seeing you do in class, with the one thing on the side and the text off to the right.
Mhm.
So I'm still playing around with that because I did that just now. But yeah, it's mainly just I haven't been touching color too much. Just been sticking it to black silhouettes for the most part.
Mhm.
But I think I don't know. I kind of like this sort of curved text.
Okay.
There's something about a sort of like circular logo that seems to come to mind whenever I think of like I don't know, just like sort of old-fashioned trains and railways and that sort of
Okay.
thing.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So that's yeah, so that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. And maybe I'll do like a silhouette like I have down here at the bottom right with the sort of profile view of the train, I think maybe.
Okay.
Or I might even try to kind of put perspective on this train here, kind of like what I've been trying to do with this one. Well, the one to the left and then the one to the top right, where I kind of got it going into the corner.
Okay.
Yeah, I might try this one with the silhouette also. So that's just that's just what I've been playing around with so far.
I think the circle is fine. Type underneath is fine. Just watch, because it feels like it's condensed. It gets a little harder to read. So just kind of watch the legibility of that when it's on the curve.
It probably also helps
go
the
ahead.
font I've chose. Okay, I was just going to say, just because I think also because the font I chose is also kind of just generally sort of bubbly and sort of somewhat squished. I think that's also kind of working against it. So I think just choosing a better font would probably also help.
Yeah, just go through it. Once you kind of say, hey, I'm thinking this, it helps, because you like on the first one on the left, you can see your S and your C. Look at the next to them. That S has barely anything between. Yeah, they're like they're just like almost the same, except for a little bit of a difference in the line there. So again, it just makes it harder to read. That makes sense. We read by shape, and it's not to say you can't do it, but it's such a long thing and it's so condensed that, I would say probably maybe look at a different typeface. Okay.
Yeah, another thing too is if you look at the A and the O, the one here to the left is an A, and then the one here in the middle is an O, and they're almost identical.
Yeah. I mean, it's a nice typeface. I like it. It's kind of fun and groovy. But I can tell you it would work much better as a title on a poster than the words on a logo.
Yeah, it's better when you already know what it's supposed to say.
Yeah, and that's the problem with designers all the time is we already know what it says. That's where we get into problems big time. We know and the client knows. So we go down this path and we think, oh, it's all good. And then somebody looks and go, what does that say? You're like, well, what do you mean? You can't read it? And, you know, we take offense to it, but they can't read it because they weren't used to it.
Mhm.
Well, you know what it is. I know what it is because you've told me whatever. But so we have to really be careful with that with typeface, especially when we get into kind of, we'll call them fancy type, you know, not traditional serif or sans serif type of thing. It's
Yeah,
a cool
exactly.
face. It's like, it's cool. So it's just kind of working that out. Yeah, okay, it's good. Keep going. Keep going.
Cool.
Nice.
Appreciate it.
All right. Anybody else? You look. All right, so what we're gonna do is save your logos, and we just saw that that's fine. When you get to the finished one, save it as a PDF and send it to me. And then when you save your PDF, make sure that you can save it as the smallest file size, so we don't have to editing capabilities. Just email again, because in Illustrator, when you do, we'll just do a save as, and we'll make it a PDF. You'll get this option popping up. So here, embed or preserve editing capabilities. I don't need that. Okay, so what that means, if you left that on, I would be able to open it up in Illustrator and go back and edit and do stuff. I don't need that. It just makes your files bigger. So just turn that off. It's perfectly fine. And then you could just save it for, you know, smallest file size or the high quality or Illustrator default. Any of these are fine. Even press quality wouldn't matter because we're not doing that big a file, but you just leave it on Illustrator. I usually go up to the highest number. In this case, it's Acrobat 8. That's off. Hit save, and boom, it's done. And now it's a PDF that I can send. Okay, but again, put your name on it. Tuesday, you know, Tuesday or Thursday or T and R or something, just so I know I don't get you guys confused with the Monday class. When I start to kind of put these in files and get the stuff worked out and graded. Like I said, it gets nuts when we start to deal with, you know, 50 different files, 50 different people sending stuff. So the name definitely helps, and the day of the class helps. Okay, on your file. Okay, on your file. So when it's in the folder, I can see who it is. Okay. Questions on any of that? Or I just did something and you didn't even see it because I didn't share my screen, right? Let me do it again. Hold on. I was an idiot. I didn't say anything. Come on. You're supposed to be like, dude, I can't see what you're doing. Not even anybody. Nothing said. Come on. All right. So we've got their files and we're good. And we've got our finished logo. That's everything else is gone except our finished logo. We're going to do file, save as, or save. We're going to make it a PDF and make sure our name is on the file. Tuesday. I'm going to save over here. Make sure this will by default come on, preserve editing or Illustrator editing capability. I don't need that. So just turn that off. It'll make a smaller file size. Okay, and then up the Acrobat to whatever the highest number is. Typically it should, in this case, should be 8, and save. Boom. And then you can email it to me at the email address over here. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. I know I was sharing that time. Stop the share. All right, questions? Anybody else want to show anything today? Gonna wait, you're gonna have it Tuesday? Any questions, any problems, anybody okay?
Yes, I have like a question.
Yes.
I mean, can I have like an extension for my design because I'm using my sister's laptop because I don't know what happened to the Wi-Fi, but it just completely just went down. Like everything's down, including the computer. So there's like kind of no way to like kind of finish it up. And I kind of need like an extension to like keep working on it. And not only that, but to also turn it in. So that's gonna be like an issue that I'm having right now. So that's why I kind of asked for an extension.
Yeah, totally. Like I said, I want you guys to get to work and do it. I'm not as concerned about deadlines. So yes, take the time you need. I will tell everybody I need all the work by the end of the semester because I got to do grades at the end and that kind of stuff. But if you need an extra day, an extra week, whatever, I am totally fine. So yes, feel free, take the time you need. If you have questions or anything out, you can email or chime in again like you did here. I'm totally fine with that. Okay. Any other questions about that? That makes sense, guys? I want you to do the projects. This is important because you're going to be, using these things again at some point. It's kind of like, you're learning the alphabet, but you have to turn your alphabet in and you don't have time to memorize it. That does no good.
It feels like trying to learn the alphabet backwards, though.
I'm sorry, say that again, Sean.
It almost feels like trying to relearn the alphabet backwards.
It is. No, it is, right? I mean, this is all new stuff, guys. And I get that. And I'm not pushing fast. I want you guys to learn it. Because if you don't learn it right, then you get to the next class and you're like, oh God, I don't know what I'm doing. Right. And the teacher's gonna be like, well, I expected you to learn this in the first class. Right. And then they get frustrated because you didn't get it.
I really appreciate your attitude on that. And I think my other fellow students do too. And what I said about the alphabet, it was interesting. I heard a radio commercial and it was this, I don't remember the attorney's name, but he was talking about, if you get in trouble, get pulled over for DUI, basically shut up and call me. Okay. And what was interesting was he gave an example of, you'll be in trouble if you can't do the alphabet backwards when they ask you.
Yeah.
It's one of the tests they do. Well, I got news for you. Right now, I mean, I've been sick, but I'm on a little bit of cold medicine or something for my sinus, but I can't do the alphabet backwards stone cold sober.
I agree.
So how am I going to do that I'm not stupid enough to drink and drive, but you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no. Yeah. No, it's totally true.
Facts.
I mean, it's easier to count down from 100, but yeah, you do the alphabet like Z, Y, W, right? You're like totally forget about it. So, yeah, again, I just want you guys to get this. And again, if you have questions, just tell me, guys. Don't worry about it. You're not the only one. I guarantee you. It's like, how do you do this again? Because even I get like, what do I, and I have to stop and look up things. Again, it's just there's so much going on, and then they're gonna change it in 2 weeks. I don't know. They're gonna, they're always updating. And I'm surprised we haven't got the updates yet. Let me see if they're up. Let me look. There's an update with new enhanced 3D effects. I told you it was coming. Boom. So there's an update coming. So I'll update. And if there's anything really radical, I'll go over it with you guys. Same thing with Photoshop. So when it says like a 0.0, that's a whole new version. So 26.01, that's a new version. 26, 23. So that means we're using 25 something Illustrator. I just know how their numbering works. InDesign, we're gonna start InDesign next week. So download that if you haven't. Looks like a updated UI. That's not a big deal. Okay. Photoshop, a major update. See, when I say major, that means like it's not just like a couple things. It's doing some really rock and roll things going on.
So I had another question that I kept meaning to ask, but I forgot it.
Yeah.
There's online tutoring platforms and things, and I had a tutor I was working with last semester, and she was telling me how she was doing a job, a graphic design job, and the client she was sharing the screen with the client.
Mhm.
Well, does that happen a lot? Because me personally, I wouldn't want the client watching my every move that way, because I might have to forget something or go back and look something up, and I don't want to look like I'm incompetent.
Yeah, no, I can tell you I don't do it that much. I mean, I do it with you guys every day, right?
Yeah, but this is different because we're not
Yeah.
paying you to come up with something.
Well,
in a way.
No, I typically don't. No, I mean, I will show the client, here's the options, and we can discuss them that way. And that's simply because of Zoom, we can do that stuff now. In the past, I would just send them a file, potentially with like your options on it, and then we go through them and talk about it. What do you think about number one, or what about number two, or whatever. But no, I never work like that in front of a client. So I would tell you I wouldn't encourage that at all, because of the reason you just said. I mean, like, it's uncomfortable, what ifs, and it's like, why do you have to put yourself through that? The client doesn't know, what does he care, right? If he wants to say, hey, can you show me some different typefaces? Sure, let me mock it up and I'll send it to you and we can talk about it. But I'm not going to go through that on the screen with him.
Yeah, I don't know the whys or wherefores of that situation, but it just seems like that is the best way to sabotage yourself in front of the client's eyes.
Now, I will tell you, as you start to work, you may do that when you're working with your art director, creative director. So if you're in a design studio and you've got design managers above you, art directors and those kind of things, I will work with them, right? I'll do stuff and they're there and we're literally kind of designing together in many ways. They're like, well, hey, why don't you move this a little bit? Okay, or oh, that's cool. So you're kind of more of a collaborative thing. I've done that many times, but not with a client.
And one last thing, I'm trying to save my pennies to eventually get a new computer. I've had a couple of issues this semester, and I'm interested in hearing from anybody that had a good source as to Mac or PC, Surface Pro, as to which type of device would really serve me well. And I'm interested in gaming, but that's really secondary to the graphic design and like script writing, which of course, you could do playwriting and screenwriting on any type of computer. But
I will tell you, the programs themselves, Photoshop, Illustrator, are not radically different anymore on a PC versus a Mac. It used to be the Macs were stronger. The PCs had some problems with the Adobe software. It's not very much different today. I have a Mac because I've always had Macs and that's what I use. I'm comfortable with them. I'm comfortable with the layout, the operating, and what I can see and can't see from a system standpoint. And obviously they cost more, but that's just what I do, and I would never buy a PC. But that's just a personal choice at this point. I think from a design standpoint, it doesn't really matter, but you will find most designers or design companies tend to go with the Mac because we're cool, right? You want to be cool. And it could literally just be that. We just want to be cool, and that's why we got it at this point.
Well, there was a time, and I don't know if it's still true, there was a time that Macs were less susceptible to catching viruses. Now, I don't know if that's still true.
They still are. They still are. Mainly, and I'll tell you, it's not that you can't get them, and Apple's done a good job with their security and all that kind of good stuff. But not as many people use Macs compared to PC. So if you're a quote criminal or trying to do nefarious things, you're gonna go for the bulk. You're not gonna go for the minimum, right? So why would you waste your time and energy doing like 5% of the market or 10% of the market when you can deal with 90%? So that's why they've been kind of protected, because not as many people use them. But Apple is pretty good with their stuff. I mean, if you look at like phones and all that stuff, they're pretty good with their security. So, and I can tell you, knock on wood, I haven't had too many problems at all, and I really can't think of any major malware or anything like that issues.
I think that the companies also, aren't they also pretty good about if you have an older unit transferring the data? I mean, because
Oh
like
yeah,
I
totally.
have an iPad that must have got a virus or something is wrong with it. It doesn't quite work right. And then I have, brace yourself, an iBook.
Mhm.
And, you know, if I get an Apple product, I'm going to want and need all that data transferred over.
Yeah, you should be. I mean, I got a new phone. I just literally put one next to the other, and they update it. You know, it took like 2 hours to transfer.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, in
Yeah,
the
the
case
computer
of
still.
in the case of the iBook, it doesn't have anything like Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. You
Mhm.
know?
No, you can do cables. There should be cables. Again, you have to get that figured out. But yeah, you should be able to do it. Or at the very least, you copy everything to a hard drive and you copy it over.
I guess what I'm asking is, if I buy a new Apple product,
Mhm.
and if I buy it from an Apple store, which is not the most economical way to do it, can't I just hand them the other two devices and say, "Here, move all this stuff over to the
Yeah,
new
they
thing"?
will help you some way. Yeah, they won't just leave you stranded. You either say, hey, we can do it. It might cost you, I don't know, because of their time, or they may send you to someplace. But apples are the same price everywhere. I mean, with the exception of, I don't know, you save $50 if you buy it at Costco kind of thing. They're really pretty much the same everywhere.
Well, and one last thing,
Yeah.
I can remember the Apple Store to an extent is willing to deal, because I just bought this several years ago. I bought an iPod, okay, and
Mhm.
I walked in and I was talking to the guy there, and I said, you know what really irritates me about Apple? It seems like every time I buy a product, 10 minutes after I get home, and of course I'm exaggerating, you have the newest upgrade of that product. And the guy looked at me, paused, smiled, and said, "We'll always be here." And I said, no. But after the conversation, I wound up getting my iPad that was actually probably about a year old, and wound up trading it in for the current version.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's part salesman on my part, I think, or they just do that all the time, and I just didn't know it. But I was kind of impressed I pulled that off.
Yeah. Like I said, I really can't say anything bad about Apple, and I've used Apple since literally the early '90s. So
Ever since it fell off the tree, huh?
yeah. I don't know. I was obviously I'm an artist, a designer. That's what we used, and it wasn't like we were doing a lot of creativity on it. It's just you got an Apple to be cool, and I guess I'm still trying to be cool. So
Well, okay, cool is also state of mind,
yes, well, I think I'm there.
and the temperature you have your home thermostat set at.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, sir. Anything else, guys? All right, so send me the files Tuesday. They're due. If you have questions, let me know, and we'll go over some work on Tuesday. We're also again going to start InDesign. So
Now that's our logo file due Tuesday.
Yeah,
right?
logo files Tuesday. I didn't set a deadline yet for the travel poster. I'll give you guys time. Don't worry, and I'll get that typed up and put up on the website and stuff. But you'll have time. No sweat.
And did you say that travel poster can be like an event poster?
Yeah. Totally. It could be like
Okay.
one. Hey, come to Coachella, right? That's a travel poster. And you're the travel agency, the official travel agency of Coachella, right? Or the trip to the moon, or whatever it is at this point. Yeah.
Well, it's like my logo and my poster ideas are basically, for want of a better word, an activity group.
Okay.
It's a group of people with like-minded stuff.
Yeah, totally.
And then the poster is going to be planned events that coincide with the core of that group.
Okay. Yeah, you don't necessarily have to do a poster for all the events. Just pick one event. Like, hey, it's a whale watching group, and we're gonna go whale watching. Now you don't have to put all the events, just do one.
the point is to create the darn thing.
Okay,
Okay, isn't it?
you'll be fine. You'll have fun doing it. I know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Anything else, guys? All right. Have a great weekend. Enjoy. Supposed to be nice out. We'll see you on Tuesday.
Thank you.
Bye.
you.
Have a great week.
Goodbye.
Bye.